Mjnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Vande Shri Guru Gaurango Radha Govinda Sundaro Saguna Giyate Chata Gita Gudarta Gauravam. So we're picking up chapter 10. We're in the middle of the Chatur Shloki, these 4 essential verses of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And we went through the first 2 of these 4 last week, and we're going to continue with the second 2 of these 4 today. So we're on we can chant verses 10 and 11 together. Let's just get ready here. There's a long purport here. Okay. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Tesham evanukampartam aham agyanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavosto jnanadipena bhasvata. To those devotees who are always lovingly engaged in my service, I give the divine inspiration by which they can come to me. To those devotees who are always lovingly engaged in my service, I give the divine inspiration by which they can come to me. So very, very hopeful verse. And as I said, commented last week, whenever I'm reminded of this verse, I get some fresh, boost of hope, enthusiasm, And this verse, it can be, as with everything, right? There are different layers of meaning. This is consistent throughout the whole of Bhagavad Gita. There are different layers of reading, of understanding. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's, as we mentioned last week, Srila Sridhar Maharaj he's always, he's not giving the beginners explanations, right? But he's drawing out these special points and giving unique angles on what is being presented in Bhagavad Gita. So one layer, the straightforward understanding given in this verse, is this very hopeful message, right? That if we are sincerely trying to serve the Lord in the line of devotion, if that is our clean intention, then we can be assured that he will show us the way forward. And it's very encouraging because we often will come across periods when we feel bewildered, lost, the clouds are in the sky, the path is dark ahead of us. We're not quite sure, right? And so many things can cause that. Can be issues within our own selves, our own anarthas, our own weaknesses coming to the surface. They can bewilder us. And then outside of ourselves, different circumstances in the environment can come and bewilder us, throw us off track in different ways, right? And so many different proposals may also come before us, and the path may not always be clear, right? So this reassurance, this promise is given by the Lord that if you sincerely desire to serve me, you're approaching me, we may not have real love, pure love at this stage, but we are aspiring in that line and we are serving those who have that, right? I published this verse on my Facebook page last week, and somebody commented underneath, how do we know what is real service? Because that question may come up, right? If we're going to go into the, the fine print, right? Krishna is saying those who are engaged in my loving service, but what if we're not really engaged in real service, right? But it all comes down to our intention, right? And this is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Nahi kalyana krit kaschid dorgatim tatagachati. One who has a real, sincere desire to do good, they will never be defeated. Or Srila Sridhar Maharaj renders it, sincerity is invincible. So if I cannot think, and I've replied, I will not have the audacity to say that I'm doing service, but I can say that I'm trying. I'm trying to serve those who are doing real service, right? This is our whole line, like we were discussing a few weeks ago. We're worshiping the worshiper. We're attempting to worship the worshiper. We're attempting to surrender to the surrendered. We're attempting to serve the real servants, right? That is our line. That is a realistic line. So we cannot say we're able to do proper service, but we are trying. Our intention is that, one day we can truly please our divine guardians. And that sincere intention is everything. No doubt we will make many mistakes. That is inevitable. We are like young children who are learning how to walk, young toddlers learning how to take our first steps. And inevitably we will fall, we will make mistakes, but it's part of the process. But that, there's this bhumo skalita padanam, bhumir eva valambanam, tvai jata pradanam, tam eva sharanam prabho. Our Gurudev liked to quote this verse, saying that for one who has fallen upon the ground is the support by which they will stand up again, right? So in the same way, in our attempts to serve the Lord, we will make mistakes, we will fall down, but we're not going to go outside of the shelter of the Lord. He will be the support, the means by which we stand up again and we rightly situate ourselves again. There's also this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam I've been remembering over these last few weeks. This Swapadamulam Bhajata Priyasya begins like this, and it's saying how for one who has offered themselves wholeheartedly to the Lord, they may accidentally make some mistake. They're not in a pure state yet, right? They're practitioners, so they have wholeheartedly given themselves with whatever they have, but they may make some mistake. They may fall down from the path. But this verse is going on to say the Lord himself will purify them. He will rectify them. The Lord is living within their heart and he will rectify them. So it's not necessary for them to go through some type of, extraneous, punishment, but the correction will come from within, from the Lord himself. He is in their care. And there's a story in connection with this verse. We heard from our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj that there was some incident, one of the number one, actually, one of the right hands of Srila Saraswati Thakur. We won't say the name, but one of the right hands of Srila Saraswati Thakur in the mission of the Gaudiya Math. He was misappropriating some of the funds. He was using some of the mission's funds it was actually for sending some of his relatives to school. And some of the, naturally, when some of the leading devotees found out about this, they were all up in arms about it, very upset, and they came to Saraswati Thakur about it again and again, but Saraswati Thakur would not respond to them. He was aloof from their complaints. And then they eventually went to this group. They went to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and because they knew that Saraswati Thakur had so much regard for Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and that he would pay attention if the complaint came from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And so they presented this to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, by nature, he never liked to get involved in these types of situations. And so he tried to avoid it, but they put a lot of pressure on him. And so finally he came and presented this issue to Saraswati Thakur. And Saraswati Thakur became very disappointed. And he used this expression, even you, he said, like, I expected this from others, but even you are coming to me. And he explained, and then he revealed his heart to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, which shows how much, closeness they had. And he said, I appreciate his service so much. I appreciate what he's done so much that I can overlook what faults he has and what mistakes he may make. And he said, we are not, he also said, we're not about money, and he said, if necessary, we can throw so much money into the Ganges. We're not here just to collect money. That's not what this is for. And he also made this other comment that he said, even if everybody left and only he stayed with me, we could build everything again. And he said, that's how much regard I have for him. So I'm not going to, sit and quibble about, what errors he's making, and I'm not going to do that, which I appreciate. It's like this broad-mindedness. So anyway, this was Srila Saraswati Thakur's response to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And then fast forward 6 months later, they were in another part of India. Saraswati Thakur was traveling, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj was traveling with him at that time. I believe they were in Madras, which is perhaps Chennai nowadays. And Srila Saraswati Thakur was sitting in his room. He was reading the scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he told his servitor, bring Sridhar Maharaj. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj came. And Saraswati, this is 6 months later, right? And Saraswati Thakur, he said to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, here is the answer to your question. And then he chanted this verse. And I'm just going to look it up right now because I can't remember the full verse, but I should do. Here it is. Svapadamulam bhajata priyasya tyaktanya bhavasya hari paresha vikarma yacho patitam katanchit dunoti sarvam hridi sanivishtaha. One who has given up all other engagements and taken full shelter at the lotus feet of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very dear to the Lord. Indeed, if such a surrendered soul accidentally commits some sinful activity, the Supreme Lord, who is seated within everyone's heart, immediately takes away the reaction to such sin. So Saraswati Thakur, just all of a sudden, he pointed out this verse to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and he said, here's the answer to your question. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj was completely bewildered. This is 6 months later. And then he was thinking on it, it clicked, and he understood he was referring to this previous incident. And our Gurudev one day in Navadvip, he spoke about this verse, he told this story, and he was really emphasizing the importance of this verse and saying that we should discuss and try to understand every word in this verse. It is very important for us. So I think about this verse from time to time. It's very encouraging for ourselves, right? As individual practitioners, very hopeful. And it also helps us to try to look upon one another with more of a magnanimous and merciful view, right? Try to leave aside the mentality of judgment, right? So anyway, we went way off of our subject here. It was related, but not directly related. But it's simply this point, right? That we may not be able to offer pure, full-fledged service in our current stage of, mixed stage, let's say, but we are trying. We hope with sincerity, in good association. So this is Krishna's promise, his reassurance here, that if someone is continuing in such a way, trying to serve me in such a way, I dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayan. I will give them the buddhi. I will give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. It's so kind, so encouraging. As you are trying to approach me, I am also trying to approach you. You're not just floundering alone in the dark, right? But I'm there. I care. I'm watching over you. I'll show you the way forward. This is his promise here. So then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he has his long purport. And whenever there's a purport, as I mentioned last week, you know there's a very special, important point being made, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj is otherwise not giving any explanation. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he draws out another layer of meaning here, and he picks up this word upayanti, which is indicating, and now we're entering high topics, right? This is indicating the paramour relationship, upapati. He connects it with this word, upapati, which is indicating the lover relationship, paramour relationship, which is ultimately the highest relation in the science of rasa and the science of devotion, in the science of divine relationships with the Lord. This is the highest relationship, where one is ostensibly crossing over the rulings of society, making that type of sacrifice. That's another level of sacrifice in order to serve the Lord. And because of the illicit nature of such a relationship, then the intensity of the love and the emotion is so much higher, so much more developed. And so we'll read Srila Sridhar Maharaj's commentary here. The Lord says, the highest group of my servitors, whose devotion was described in the previous verse, right? Because Srila Sridhar Maharaj makes this point, I'll just mention before, right? Like already in the previous verse, it's already been established, right? That Krishna is speaking about his surrendered souls. They already have a relationship with the Lord. So then in this verse, for Krishna to say, I will show them how they can come to me, may sound redundant. Like they've already come to him. We're talking about a high class here. They're already fully surrendered. They're already living with the Lord. They already have a divine relationship. So why is it now saying here, he'll show them how they can come to him? It doesn't make sense, right? So Srila Sridhar Maharaj is drawing out this deeper reading of this verse. So then he's saying what Krishna's actually saying here on a deeper level is he will give the revelation, he will give the inspiration by which a certain class of my devotees can approach me as a paramour. They already have a relationship with the Lord, but this is something more. This is something more intense, more deep. So we'll read this. The Lord says, the highest group of my servitors, whose devotion was described in the previous verse by the word ramanti, are those who are constantly engaged, satata yukta, in my service in consorthood, madhura ras, with heartfelt love, bhajatam priti purvakam. Then he says that he will give them further inspiration or inner instruction by which they can come to him. Yena mam upayanti te. When in this and the previous verse, the devotee's service to the Lord has been described as eternal by the words nityam and satata yukta, now the statement that he will give them further inspiration by which they can come to him may appear to be redundant. Therefore, in the expression mam upayanti te, they will come to me, the word upayanti must be defined as parakiya bhavena, upapati. Pati means husband and upapati means paramour. In Vrindavan, Lord Krishna is not considered a lawful husband, but he is the Lord of the heart, transcendental to even the husband, parakiya rasa. Deceiving their husbands, the gopis of Vrindavan unite with Krishna. They do not allow a second party to come between them and Krishna. They cannot allow the interception of social law or even scriptural regulation, because Krishna's position is absolute, and such a relationship is more relishable to him. This is Vrindavan Bhajan, and this is the meaning of upapati. So I'll just add here for anyone here who's perhaps a little more new to these teachings that, this is really this is a little tricky to understand, right? But really the idea here is that this is an ornamental conception, right? We're entering a plane where everything is unnecessary, so to speak. Everything is ornamental. There's no utility, involved. There's no necessity, but it is all exploring the world of play, divine emotion, feeling, love. And as such, it is unnecessary. So it is all ornamental. It is exploring a fine world, right? Just like as if someone is drawing a drama, writing a script, right? The script is exploring a world of emotion and feeling and art and beauty and all of these things, right? So it is like that. Actually, Krishna, he is the Lord of all. He is the master of all. But he likes to pose himself as a thief. He owns everything, but he wants to pretend to be a thief. Why? Because that's more interesting. And so in his relationship with these divine damsels of Vrindavan, he is really the husband of all of these ladies, but they are imbued with this sentiment that they are secret lovers, because that is intensifying, the relationship, the feeling. This makes everything more exciting. So it is all a play. It is all a play. Welcome, Ramananda Prabhu.
And Vishaka Didi. You explained very nicely. I heard that conversation between Guru Maharaj and Sagar Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And welcome also Tungarasa and Jayadev. They also joined us. Okay, so and now there is a caveat here, a footnote, which we'll read, giving some warning, right? Don't try this at home. So 2 verses are being cited here in this footnote, which are giving some caution around these subject matters, both from Srimad Bhagavatam. Vikritam Rajavadu Biridam Cha Vishnu Shadham Vito Nishunayana Tavarna Yedya Bhaktim Padam Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hridrogam Ashva Pahinotya Chirena Dhiraha. A self-controlled person who possesses sincere faith in the divine pastimes transcendently enjoyed by Lord Krishna with the gopis, Rasa Lila, and who, having heard those divine pastimes from the lotus mouth of the bona fide Guru, constantly sings or narrates their glories, such a person swiftly achieves the most elevated form of pure devotion for the Lord and is promptly able to ward off the heart disease of lust. So this warning is given here, right? That first of all, understand that the nature of this divine play of the Lord, which apparently appears to be very human, parallels ordinary activity of humans in this world, it is actually so pure that it can purify your lust. It is so pure that it can cleanse you of your mundane impurities. So, have this in your mind when you're hearing about this activity of the Supreme Lord. It is not on the same platform as such dealings in this world. And then another warning is also given on another level in this verse, that that we will be cautious to dive into this subject matter. One has to have a certain level of qualification, because someone can read this verse and say, oh, we're actually being recommended to read these types of pastimes with the Lord because they'll purify our heart. Then we should all go and read about this. This is one way. This is how persons can interpret this, right? So our gurus have given this verse here, like there's a whole ton of commentary surrounding it by our acharyas, by our gurus, because they don't want any misunderstanding. So then this warning is also given, like to get to that level of going into this subject matter in more detail, you need to be dhira, a self-controlled, sober person, who has strong faith. And, this is an expanded translation, but it's, being drawn out. Anu shunnuyad means like hearing in the proper line, hearing from the proper source. So that's being rendered here as hearing those from the lotus mouth of the bona fide guru. So you also have to be under the direction of a proper instructor, right? A proper guide before you can go into this subject matter. So then there's a second verse, important verse of giving some caution. In his writing, Srila Jiva Goswami has laid stress on the word dhira, meaning self-controlled. To hear these elevated subjects, one must enter into the culture of sense control. Otherwise, he will be lost. And now the second verse. Naitat samacharej jatu manasapi yanishwaraha vinashyatya chananmodyad yatarujo abdi jambisham. No one should ever even think of imitating this behavior of the Supreme Lord and the gopis. If out of gross foolishness anyone tries to imitate the pastimes of the Lord, he will be destroyed, as though imitating Lord Shiva by drinking the poison which arose from the ocean. It is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam that once the demigods and the demons jointly engaged in churning the ocean to produce nectar, both nectar and poison were produced, and Lord Shiva, by his power, could hold the poison within his throat. So we were all those of us who were just in India, we were remembering this pastime, right, of Lord Shiva. We had the darshan of this beautiful deity, Hari Hara, special deity of Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. And there's this incident, right? There's this churning of the ocean of milk, and so many things are coming out of this ocean. So many wonderful, treasures are coming out, and different devas are taking different things, right? There's this special elephant that goes to the king of heaven. I think even Lakshmi Devi comes out and she goes to Lord Narayan. So many wonder. But then there's this poison which also comes out, and nobody knows what to do with it, and so then who do you call when you're in trouble? When you have some dirty work that needs to be done, you call Lord Shiva, right? And our Gurudev pointed out, like, nobody thought to call him before, right? Like when all the good stuff was coming out, or when they had this plan in the beginning, like nobody invited Lord Shiva. But when they had this poison, oh, we have to ask Lord Shiva for help, and only he can digest this. So nobody else could handle this poison, only Lord Shiva. And what did he get as a result of that? Like something that would kill anyone else. He just got this beautiful blue ornament on his neck. So in the same way, we're being warned, not to imitate the actions of higher souls. What one can digest, another cannot digest. And then there's also following on. So there's these two verses. They're all together in the same place in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there's another one too there, which is also quite helpful, saying that that one should follow the words of the great souls, but not necessarily their actions. May or may not be helpful to follow what they do, right? Just like with children, right? Sometimes children, they won't understand why their parents are giving them one instruction, but doing something else themselves, right? You can't cook on the stove, but I can. So it is like that, we have to have that type of intelligence and sincerity, right? That our guru or a great or someone more advanced than ourselves, they may be able to get away with something and maintain their spiritual vitality, but we shouldn't think that we can. And we don't know what's behind their activity also. So we have to be careful about that. Yeah, imitationism is one of the worst dangers that we face. We have to know what's appropriate for us, and when and where. And okay, so we can continue with our reading here. Going back to the main commentary, Krishna is speaking about his relationship with his exclusive devotees. My relationship with them is independent of everything conceivable, including law, society, and the scriptures. It is most innate and natural, and it does not require any social or scriptural sanction. I say to them, you may show formal respect to all these restrictions and live in the society, but from the heart of your heart, you are mine. This is the special inspiration and insight I give those devotees. And this reminds me of, we heard of this incident from Devashish Prabhu, or one of our senior devotees in London, that there was this occasion, he was there at our temple in India, Navadvip, and there was one Western lady, her husband had just passed away, and she came to spend some time at the mat in the temple. And she was completely heartbroken. She'd been very attached to her husband. And there were some local ladies. They had some type of, mystic power and some ability to what's the word that you use, like to communicate with ghosts. There's a word for it. I can't think of the word. Marie probably knows the word. But so they were bringing this lady to the Ganges every day, and they were, I don't know, chanting some mantras or something, and she was able to communicate. Yeah, channel spirits. There's a special seance. Yeah, that's probably it. I'm thinking there is a special word when you're communicating with ghosts. What is it? I can't think, but anyway, yeah, channel spirits, we can say. So every day she was doing this and having this communication with her departed husband. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he heard about it, and he called her to him. And then he spoke kindly to her, but he told her, Krishna will not share you with anyone. Krishna will not share you with anyone. He wants an exclusive relationship. There's another talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he describes Krishna as being selfish, and like he wants our whole heart. He won't tolerate that we maintain allegiance to anyone or anything else. Okay, externally, right? We have to follow certain things, right? But in the heart of our heart, he wants the whole thing. He won't take anything less. And he also mentions there that he said otherwise, if we approach Krishna just giving one part of ourselves, he will also approach giving one part of his self, right? But if we want like the inner heart of Krishna, then we have to give our whole heart to him. And there's this other talk Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives where he where he says, he talks about this in a very wonderful way. He's speaking about this principle, this parakia bhajan, right? You see that phrase here, right? So bud is used in the commentary. So parakia is referring to this paramour relationship, right? And bhajan is referring to our service, worship, life of devotion. And so there's this one talk, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, where he explains how even, and normally parakia bhajan, that's something we will hold high above our heads, right? Like that's referring to a very high, intimate relationship with the Lord. But there's this one talk, we published this, it's on the premadharma.org website. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he explains like how we can practice that on our level. And he says, and he starts out with this idea, with this very dramatic phrase that he says the main characteristic of the Rupanuga Vaishnava, right? The devotees in this line is to break the law. He says it like that in this very dramatic way, which, could easily be very misinterpreted. He's not saying we should go out and break the law. But then he goes on to explain this point that, externally we may have many obligations, right? We may have debt. We may have children to feed, and bills to pay, right? And we're bound by that. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj says that can represent the husband, right? That's where the plane of our duty is. And that we can actually ostensibly become free from that. So then he says, but what we can do is in the plane of our free will. We can take that to Krishna. We can offer that to Krishna. Excuse me. That free will, we can internally break the law. You can say we can offer that to Krishna. Our heart can run to Krishna. That on the surface, we may not be able to become free of these demands, these things that are holding us within society. But we can take our heart, we can take our free will, and we can come and offer that at the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is our application of parakia bhajan. Externally, there are social and scriptural demands, but my position is over and above them. Veda is my instruction for the benefit of the masses who have deviated from me. And society is also under the jurisdiction of those general instructions given to the people by me. It's kind of like, you could think of it this way, like there's one type, like for criminals, there's one set of laws, right? Or like prior offenders, right? There's one set of laws. There's stricter laws for them, right? For prisoners or persons who have been convicted of previous crimes. They have to follow a different set of rules, right? But for persons who are considered to be innocent, well-intentioned, most of humanity is on probation, Marie says. Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Exactly. You got it. We're on probation, right? So that's what the Vedas are. The general Vedic instruction is for persons on probation, right? But for persons who are recognized as well-meaning individuals who want to contribute to the good of society, they have another set of laws, or they don't have any laws even, you could say, in the highest plane. Okay, Govinda, thanks for joining, and great to have your presence with us always. So it's like that. So Krishna is saying, like, let's get this straight. Like, those are the general rules for people on probation, right? But I expect something else from you. You're concerned with something deeper and more essential. My divine relationship with everything is intrinsic and independent. It does not require recognition from anyone. Such a relationship is the highest. It is the constant. It supersedes all law and society, which are guided by the Vedas. Rather, all the Vedas are searching for such a thing. Shruti Biri Mrigyam, Vishesha Mrigya. The Vedas are searching after this ideal divine position. In the section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which deals with Rasa Leela, the Vedas are begging forgiveness. We are generally supposed to give tidings of you, but we could not describe you as we now experience you here. Now we understand that we have committed an offense because we could not distribute this Rasa Leela to the world. Like signposts, all the revealed scriptures are only showing the direction. But where, how, we don't know. Only he may be available in this direction. Anywhere and everywhere, everything belongs to him. For one who knows this, all possibilities of sense pleasure and exploitation are uprooted. For example, an unmarried woman may have the possibility of being approached by many, but there is less possibility for those who are married because they are possessed by someone. Similarly, when we are able to know that everything is only for the satisfaction of Krishna, then we shall realize that all our exploiting tendencies have vanished forever. Nothing will remain to be utilized for the pleasure of our sense experience. It will be very deeply felt in our hearts that everything has its existence only for his satisfaction, and there is no room for any other exploitation. Marie, do you want to finish that commentary?
Yeah, though I was so busy listening, I am not entirely certain where we left off.
We too are included here. It's the last paragraph in that commentary we were on.
We too are included there. Our existence is also only for his satisfaction. Everything is meant for his divine pastimes, Leela, and there is no possibility for any other's pastimes. All are included in that one Leela. Encroachment will disappear when we learn the proper utility of everything. He is the owner, and his ownership is absolute. The scriptures, society, and law designate, this is yours, that is another's, or that belongs to the third party. This is something like a temporary lease, but the permanent ownership is in all respects with him. All others, possessor and property, master and servant, are relative, and only sanctioned by him for the time being. He alone is the absolute owner, possessor, and enjoyer. Complete purification of our hearts is possible only when we arrive at such a conclusion. Everyone is thinking of themselves as many masters of many things, but this is all heart disease, hridrogam. This is all conceived in a diseased state of consciousness. In a healthy state, when the heart is quite wholesome, we can see the supreme whole, and we can see that everything is meant only for his satisfaction.
Thank you, Marie. Can be a hard pill to swallow, huh?
Oh yeah, but once you swallow it.
Once you swallow it, you realize how sweet it is, right? Once the bitter covering washes off.
Mm-hmm.
This line here, I really appreciate the previous end of the previous paragraph. It will be very deeply felt within our hearts that everything has its existence only for his satisfaction. And that's the stage that we are, aspiring for, right? And then in that stage, there are no shoulds or shouldn'ts, right? But that will be the feeling in our heart, that deep revelation, that deep heart feeling, oh, everything is for his satisfaction, right? And as it's saying here, there won't be room for anything else. That's real Krishna consciousness. Nothing else will be possible because that is so weighty within our heart, within our consciousness. Everything is for him. And I am also for him. And that there's one Leela. Everything is within that one Leela. There's only Krishna's Leela. You know, I'll tell you, one of my pet peeves is when I hear some of our simple-hearted practitioners throwing around this word Leela. You know, that sometimes you'll hear our devotees use it to refer to their own interactions, you know, and it's like, we only use that word for Krishna, you know, or our gurus, their Leela. We don't want to use that word too lightly, right? So it's Krishna's show, right? It's Krishna's Leela. He's the starring character, right? Where we have minor supporting cast roles, you know. So as we begin to wake up, right, that will become more and more clear to us. Well, we're almost at the end of our time. I feel like we should wait before moving on to the following verse. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
May I say something, Vishaka?
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Yeah, I listened was listening to Srila Guru Maharaj lecture. He said we are owned. We are like a property of Krishna, Radha Krishna. We are like a cat, a dog, a cow. Yeah. Can you explain on that? I don't know. We say Radha Krishna Nitya Leela. So there is Krishna is one half, Radha is other half.
Sorry, what did you ask me to explain?
That because in Leela there is Radha Krishna. We are going through Radha Rani. We are aspiring Rupanugas.
So what was the question? Sorry.
So like they say, it's Krishna Leela, but we are just aspiring servants. We are going through our exclusive Guru Maharaj channel or through Srila Rupa Goswami.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
No, it's confusing for me also sometimes. Like Guru Maharaj was telling to Sagar Maharaj, he was telling that we are like Krishna's property. We are owned. We are like an animal. We are for him, nothing else. Yeah, that's what. If you can explain more.
Explain more about how we are Krishna's property.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that's self-explanatory. The only thing wrong is that we haven't realized it, right?
I think what you just said, if I may say something,
Yeah,
before
please.
you were saying that we are just some side roles. We are just stand-ins. We are not the main characters in that play.
Mm-hmm.
You were just saying that, right? So that resonated with me.
Nice.
You know, because if you have the director, you're not going to go like, well, I don't feel like standing over there and wearing that. It's just like, no, you sign up, you just do that and go over there and you act like that the best you can.
Yes, I mean, Prabhu, what can I say? There are different levels of realization. The first level of realization is to realize that we are the property of Krishna. And then if we can fully embrace that position, then Krishna will become our property. The highest level of devotees, that is their position. You know, there's a line of Saraswati Thakur, one of my favorite quotes. He says, Krishna is the personal property of his devotees. You know? There's Tadiya and there's Madhya, right? Tadiya Tattva is referring to this this conception that I belong to him, right? That is a very high realization, high level of surrender, to feel that deeply in one's heart. I belong to him. I'm his property. That's what we are aspiring for. But there's even a higher level beyond that. Madhya, it is called. And that means he belongs to me. So we can only worship such things. We won't imitate, But, like the Nanda, Jashoda, right? Those in Vatsalya Ras, the parental guardian relationship, and the relationship of a lover. That is how they relate with Krishna. Krishna belongs to us. He is our property. We have to take care of him, and correct him also if necessary. Not that we want to take such things so lightly, right? But that is within the ideal. But yes, what can we say? We are worshiping all of these things, Now our hearts are in a very mixed condition. We have this hridrogam, right? This heart disease that we are thinking of ourselves as many masters of many things. And this is the only cause of our trouble in this world. So we are on the path. What can we say? We are trying. We're going to school. We're doing our homework. We're going through the probationary measures and correctional measures and all these things. And we're doing our time. And what is it called when you have to do, like when you get a ticket, community service, right? We're doing our community service. And we have confidence we'll get there one day. Why? Because we have some very good guardians. They know what they're doing. And they will take us to the goal. One way or another, one day or another, right? We will get there.
Thanks so much, Vishaka Didi. Yeah, you make it more realistic and relatable. Sometimes I listen to many things. I don't know. I can feel Guru, like Guru Maharaj say, Guru is not limited. So, but it's hard to kind of, yeah. Yeah. Guru Maharaj put so nicely, and you explain much better. Nobody can like that. See how you put it, explain nicely. Yeah. It's easy. It's easy. Like we sing Prem Bhakti Jaha hoite avidya vinashi jate. Ved gaye jahara charito. With Prem Bhakti, everything manifests. Yeah. Yeah, I'm lucky I'm still around. Yeah.
When the light arises, then when the sun arises, then all darkness will disappear. Krishna Surya Sam, Maya under the Maya Andhakara, right? Krishna is like bright sunlight, Maya illusion is like dense, blinding darkness. And when that sun of Krishna arises, then no darkness can remain. And that day can come sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So we will all try to be good boys and girls and follow our gurus as best as we can.
Yeah, in one lecture, Gurudev was saying, now I am a good boy. Earlier, I used to be bad boy, now I'm a good boy.
Yeah, he used to say that. Our Gurudev, he said once, well, many times he would refer to himself like that, like as a boy, but one time he explained and he said, I always think of myself as a boy because I'm always thinking of myself in connection with my Guru Maharaj, and I'm always thinking I'm his boy. He's always living in the true disciples, always living in the relativity of their Guru, right? So they're feeling like that, we are just the children of our Guru Maharaj. Thank you all so much for your wonderful association, and look forward to next week. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai. Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande. Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Done.
Jai,
Done.
thank you for your association. Hari